Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as ever, I'm going to date stamp this, which is a bit unusual what I'm going to read out. It's Year 5, Blog 1. And in legacy numbers, it's Blog 209, and it's dated the 22nd of February 2026. Yes, we've reached my 5th year. And Blog 1 again. So we move up to going towards the 52nd week again. It's amazing, really. I never thought I'd be doing that. It was supposed to be the great experiment for me. It was going to be, what's it like when my demeanor is low, when I'm happy, when I'm sad? Does it affect my appearance, whether I care about things? Do colors change your mood? All of that sort of stuff that was really supposed to be the Big Brother experiment when you think about it, and it turned into that horrible phoning in and get people to dance like puppets, which I can't stand. But very excited. There's going to be possibly some changes in the future. I haven't thought of any at the moment, really. I did put out a question, said, is there something that you don't like or you like? There's things I can't change because it's really not a blog, it's a diary. But, you know, if there was a section you didn't like you go into what you watched in those sections, and we don't like this or don't like that, or there's something that you might have thought of that I haven't, that might be quite fun to do in a blog, that'd be brilliant. But I don't know whether there's any. I doubt if there is. When I did a quick recce of expanding all of the comments, it was all happy birthday to my mum, belated or otherwise. You know, people have got busy lives. So not quite sure, really, what to expect in this one. It might be quite short. But anyway, I look out the window and it's actually a calm, quite bright day for the end of February, and we've got some snowdrops appearing in the garden. So spring's coming. Thank God, can't come round quick enough. I didn't mention Groundhog Day a couple of weeks ago, but I think there was a news article that said there was going to be 6 more weeks of winter. And, you know, that all that does is fill you with doom and gloom from a certain extent. But it doesn't seem that way here. Maybe the groundhog got it wrong. Who knows? If he saw a shadow, he saw it. That's all I can say. Let's get the news out the way before we get into anything personal. And it's been a pretty shitty week for news and stuff that, you know, I can't really stand. The big news story then is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Yeah. He was arrested on the 19th of February 2026 on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was released after 11 hours of questioning. You've all got your own opinion on this. I can't stand the bloke. An embarrassment to all. So that's all I can say about that. It carries on after the arrest of Andrew. MPs have debated and called for his succession to king status to be removed. He currently is 8th in line. Yeah, so we've removed his prince title. A number of his living quarters and stuff are under suspicion or moved away. His funding definitely has. Now they want to remove his ability to become king, even though he is 8th in succession. Yes, why not? Doesn't deserve it. If you've got a misconduct charge hanging over you, if you've got ties that are being currently investigated, all of that sort of stuff. And you've embarrassed the country along with the royal family. You can't become king. It doesn't matter whether you're 56th in line. Get rid of it. That's my opinion on that. Moving on. It's the Winter Olympics, as you know. Team GB's men's curling team lost their final game last night and therefore won silver in their heat. Yeah, what a shame. I did watch that as much as I could while I was looking after my mum. Not that there was an awful lot of rest of TV that I could watch, and I have to watch things in half-an-hour stints, if you see what I mean. I can watch it all in my mum's room, but she'd like to watch Midsummer Murders or something similar. Sometimes she'll get interested in something that I like the curling. I do like the curling. I find it quite a great, thoughtful sport. And we did really, really well. But we were playing against a top-notch team. Canada is absolutely amazing. Their thoughts through this process of playing that game, because there are 10 ends, a bit like bowling, were absolutely fantastic. And we didn't, as a team, capitalise on certain sections of the game. You know, they do it in ends. And there were definitely some missed shots or bad sort of like sliding that worked against them. You know, they did some fantastic shots, don't get me wrong. My God, they would have destroyed probably any other team if it weren't for the fact that they were playing such pedigree at the time. So that's that. We'll move on. The BAFTA Film Awards are this weekend, with the films Sinners and One Battle After Another expected to win the lion's share. Yeah, award ceremonies. We've spoken about this before. I'm less involved in all of that sort of stuff now. I used to be big on the Oscars and BAFTAs and everything. But to be quite honest now, patting on the back, don't need it. It's nice for the actors. I think they ought to get something, but they're job people. They get paid for what they do. Do I get a pat on the back for doing a spreadsheet this week? No. Do I win a BAFTA for it? Definitely not. So that's my opinion on that. Then we move on to the other big news, which went around the world. Supreme Court ruling in a 6-3 decision ruled that Trump overstepped his authority to bypass Congress to impose his global tariffs. What did he do after that? Trump immediately raised the tariffs to 15%. So now there's a big I want a refund going on across the world, and he goes and increases all the tariffs to 15%. All of those contracts and talks that he's had, including certain ones in Great Britain, thrown out the door. Now, there are certain ones he can't touch. They're part of national security. He can't touch those. Those tariffs have to remain the way they are. But we've got an economy fracture. It's very fragile at the moment. And him doing all of this tariff stuff, I know he wants to make America big again. He's in one of the biggest land masses the world has ever seen. So it's greed. Greed. We know it's greed. We're a very small land mass, very small aspect. And there are other countries that split up Europe and so forth that have got equally small, and he's taxing the hell out of us. And, you know, I find it all bewildering, totally bad. And the last bit of sad news, and I did tell you the news is mostly sad. Rest in peace, Robert Duvall. Now, you should recognise that name. He's been around for decades. He died at the age of 95, natural reasons, 15th of the 2nd, 2026. And he's been in lots of films that I've enjoyed. I'll name some of them: Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Falling Down, fantastic. And Deep Impact, another great one that I really enjoy. I mean, what can you say about The Godfather? I mean, absolutely amazing. It from the moment I saw it, the time just went by. What is that film? Nearly 3 hours. Second one even longer. And he played a fantastic role in that. Falling Down just blew my mind when it came out. Michael Douglas having a nervous breakdown, sacked from work, stuck in a commuter traffic, decides to leave his vehicle, go on a walk, and basically observe behavior. So it's a behavioral film, and the things that went on, I mean, it's astronomical what really went on with him. He found weapons and crime, and saw people in stores in a different way, in a biggest and racist way in many ways. And there's Robert Duvall, looking out, trying to find him. He's a cop. So yeah, Deep Impact. What can I say about that? I find that a better film than the other film, and that Armageddon, about an asteroid hitting Earth, what it does. Fantastic character-driven story in Deep Impact. So really enjoyed that. So great regret. And, I did watch one of those films this week in bits as I have to because of caring for my mum. But I did watch one and I had great enjoyment watching it. So I'll just take a sip of water. My week, a bit of a shorter one because I had Friday off and I got all of next week off. And the reason for this is purely just down to how your year works in regards to holiday entitlement. You have to take all of your holidays before the end of February. I mentioned this the other week, and I had loads of holiday left. I've lost some, but I can carry 3 days forward, which I've done. I've taken 5 days off, increased that to 6 days. They let me have the Friday off, so that was good. The rest lost. You could put it down to, well, that's your own stupid fault, but there are other people that take their holidays off and you can only have so many people off at a time. And I've had the caring situation to consider, and you never know when you might need to take an emergency day here and there because of hospital visits, doctor's visits, which work has been really good at the beginning of this whole process, where they gave me quite a lot of compassionate leave, I would say. So it makes perfect sense on why this year has been very rocky in regards to my holiday entitlement. I was happy to lose some. I've got days that I carry forward. It will be much better to structure this year, barring major issues, major, problems. So we will see how that goes. I did notice a stutter then. Not quite sure why. I'll need to look into that. It's definitely going in directly into a USB port, the camera, so maybe it's just something was running in the background. I'll check into that. So really, this week it's been okay. I helped with the reporting before I left. It was my turn to host the weekly and daily meetings, so I had to write up minute notes, worked on some projects, did my normal work, got less training in, but I did increase my training level to 25% for the last course of the year, and I've got to the end of March. So I've got to do the other 75% in 4 weeks when I get back to work, which is a It should be possible. Depends on what projects have been thrown at me. So we will see. I'm not concerned about that at the moment. Few disagreements with my boss. You get them. They're things of opinion. Spoke to my sister about them, and she sort of agreed with some of it. You know, it's like cut-off points for weekly reports being 10 o'clock on a Friday. There's the rest of the day, you know, and the argument of, but they'll be correct in the monthly doesn't ring true with me, because when I had to do reports, they looked at the weekly figures, totaled them all up, and they were supposed to total the same figure in the monthly. If you've got figures that you're missing out, but they're captured in the monthly, then the weekly makes no sense, if you see what I mean. I hope I explained that correctly. But anyway, that's the sort of thing, little things like that sort of like get my goat a little bit. Because even though I'm not a manager and haven't been now for several years since I moved over to the MOJ, I've still got management things that I did in my head still. So yeah, didn't agree with all of that. When it comes to my mum, as you know, it was her birthday week last week, and I mentioned maybe, you know, a gut reaction straight afterwards that she said she didn't enjoy it, but she did say it was because of the cold. But, you know, with everything that goes on, you sometimes you can be oversensitive, and maybe I was in that. She's been, when I talk about it now, she can just about remember, and she said she enjoyed the dinner, so that's a good thing, isn't it? I mean, you got to say that. Health-wise, we've given her some Gaviscon to see whether that helped with the chest. She was saying she was getting a chest issue, but she couldn't tell whether it was a squeeze or a prod or you know, the type of feeling that you get, which I'm well aware after a heart attack what that is. There's no lump in her breast. My sister and my mum checked for their own you know, thing to make sure that there's nothing there, and she hasn't mentioned it since we started giving her Gaviscon, so it might have been just heartburn. It's very difficult to gauge. So there's that. You just notice little things like getting her to bed and her eating is taking longer. So that means more time I'm away from doing anything for myself, which I'm happy to do. I'm a carer. That's about it, really. My mother's in good spirits. She's less chatty. I miss our chats. Even with the early stages of dementia, she was still chatty. Now she looks at the paper, and I know she's not taking any of it in. And that's really, really sad. And it might well be that the paper is also causing her to be less interested in the telly, things going on around her, and the eating, because she continues to, you know, we put the food in front of her on her table, the paper's still there, and I can see her glancing at the text while she's eating. So yeah, it might be that we'll need to take that away. But I must admit, at night, when I'm saying it's time to go to bed, she grabs that hold of that paper and will not let go. She wants to continue, even though she's read it 5 times by this point. It's been in front of her face from 9 o'clock in the morning till into the 8 and 9 o'clock time when she goes to bed. So 12, 13 so hours. So, you know, you look at it like that, you go, she's not taking this in. And it's sad, but we count each day as the new norm. And we make, she gets the best comfort that you could ever get. So there's that. So that's really my mum. Work for me. it's the end of the month, which makes it difficult money-wise for me. That's the big problem. When I turned my car ignition on, the little light came on saying 23 days to oil inspection. It now shows 1 day to oil inspection. But I do have one of these devices, OBD11, which is one of these dongles that you put in your car and you connect it to the phone, and you can turn features on and off. I know that there's nothing really to do for oil in my car. It was changed last year, and I've done less than 2,000 miles in a year because I'm not traveling to work. And as you remember, I didn't have a driving license for 3 months last year. So the oil inspection is down to a time. So it's gone 12 months since you last changed it, because it's usually 12 months or 24 months or 8,000 or 10,000 miles. That's the setting in there. And obviously it's counted down because my MOT is just round the corner. So there's a couple of things that I need to be aware of in this, and that is MOT, tyres. I think that's about it. And the reason I mentioned the tyres is that they were down to I think 3 millimeters of tread, and that's very, very close to legal. Pretty sure it's 3.5 they were at. And even though I haven't done any miles, they did say there was perishing in the walls of your tyres, which means that the cold and the heat and all of that sort of stuff has shown some cracks in the walls. And normally I'd change my tyres in twos, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. I'd do 2 at 1.6 months later, 2 at the back. But with me not doing the travelling and so forth, the tyres have been on a much longer time than they should be. And so I'm probably going to need 4 new tyres. And the tyres cost, they're Continentals. The tyres cost around about 120 quid a tyre. You can get them cheaper. I think 112 is the cheapest I've seen when I've been checking this week. So do the math, 112 times 4. If I can get away with 2, brilliant. So, yeah, MOT, 4 new tyres, a little bit of work on the oil inspection, which I'll get done. And I will just check the oil to see whether it's black or not, but it can't be. It hasn't been used. It'll just be settling in the sump. So I'll go for a long run, leave it for an hour or 2, then check to see whether the oil is black or not, and possibly get that changed along with an oil filter. Yeah. So yeah, money is sort of like on my mind purely because the extra expenditure plus these things. If you remember rightly, what happened to my mum happened in mid to late March. My MOT in my last time was done by then. So this is all in that same year that this has happened to my mum. So that's me, really. There isn't really much else to add. I've been happy in myself, I dare say. I did get a video out. I was very happy about that. I did a film short, and I did the artwork for 3, and I've got 1 out, so I just need to record the footage and get it out there for the other 2. I'm going to do some gaming stuff as well. I haven't forgotten about that. So, yeah, I'll probably do a couple of live streams on my week off and get some deep cleaning done. Already on Friday, I hoovered up and, got rid of mess on the floor and wiped down sides and all of that sort of stuff. And, the rest of the stuff we keep clean anyway. You know, we change the sheets and the linen and all that on a weekly basis. But I'm talking about moving the bed out and hoovering behind that and all that sort of stuff. That's what I did on Friday. Good hour and a half on Friday doing my mother's room. And I also did a little bit in my own room, in the kitchen and the hallway. So yeah, some little jobs done. I chucked out a load of plastic stuff into the recycling bin. And I'll continue to do that, but next week I also need to work on the garden. So lots of things all planned for me to do. So we'll move on now, because we'll get to the shout outs and then the comments. And I just want to thank everybody that watches this. I hope you get some enjoyment out of it. It's a little peek into my life, as Ian Hill the Rambling says. It's funny. It says I've done over 528, I think it said, videos. This will make 529, or if I'm that close, it could be actually 530. And if you look at the legacy numbers of my blog, which I just read out, it's 209. I've done far more other videos, so I'm not just a person that's known for his diary and blogs. I do other things. So I hope you go and look at those. I've done an extensive amount over the last 4 years, and now heading into the 5th, I expect that to expand. So, you know, have a little look, see whether there's something else there that you like. That'd be nice for me. Enjoy that. But to everybody that watches, thank you very much, and welcome again to this weekly endeavour of mine. And I'll read out the shout outs, because these are the people that have actually left a comment. And people lead busy lives, so it's very appreciated when somebody leaves a comment. We haven't got the time these days. You know, it's hard enough watching YouTube when you've got a working life and you've got the telly to watch and films to see and work to do around the house. You know, you just don't get these free moments. So these are the shout outs. They are Rocket Bunny. They're in no particular order. Rocket Bunny, Gans Teeth, Carl Todd, Ian Hill the Ramblings, Martroid, Ian Hill the Ramblings. Oh, did that twice. Do apologise. There you are. He deserves twice. Robert's Retro Gaming, Wee Bob Art, and Floyd 1611. So a new one there. Not quite sure what that one says. Maybe it's just a person saying hello. Who knows? But absolutely fantastic guys for doing all of this. I will mention Steve's Gaming Part 2, because he did send me a birthday gift wish for my mum and hoped I was okay. And he can't comment anymore because his channel has been taken away. As mentioned last week, it was very sad to see him disappear from my subscribe list. It's through no fault of his own. Somebody, I think, has hacked his account and broken some rule, and YouTube don't want to know, which is upsetting, you know. But for him, it's devastating. That's the second time that's happened. It's like you're building up trust again. You're building up your video library again, and bang, taken away. And you know, it could be how you look after your passwords. It could be somebody who's got a grudge. It could be anything. And you just think to yourself, awful. Because how many hours did you spend doing it? You're very sort of like proud. And you're leaving a legacy behind. And then the legacy is wiped away. It's awful. So, yeah. So I've just took a swig of water, and I'm just prepping to open up the comments, and I'm just going to take a quick break. I want a splash of water. It's quite warm today. I might have to open the windows a little bit. So I'll just be a second, and I'll probably open the window. Won't be a moment. Okay, so I've opened a window, splashed a bit of water on. It's cooling down a little bit in here. Probably shouldn't have worn this jumper. But, you know, I wash an awful lot of the clothes because it's every day. Now, I haven't really talked about that too much, actually, but with a mother that's, you know, got vascular dementia and basically getting on in her age, we've got wow, it must be 6-7 sets of pajamas. You've got 3 lots of duvet covers and pillowcases and a special sheet that has to be washed with no detergent. You know, you have to use, you know, bio material for that. And you've got your own clothes, your own bed linen, all of that sort of stuff. Therefore, the washing machine is on once or twice a day, and the tumble dryer as well once. Every day, 7 days a week. And it's what I was saying about the rising costs, because Mother and I, when it was just us, we used to do a wash at the end of the week. Yeah. And a tumble dry at the end of the week. And it's now every day, so that you can do the math in regards to, washing tabs and all of that sort of stuff. It's quite astronomical, really. And I have to therefore keep looking at the prices. In fact, sometimes Amazon is cheaper to buy from if you're buying something on a regular basis. So I've been looking into all of that. It's almost like I've become the man that cuts the coupons out of newspapers, you know. I don't, but you understand. I have to be a bit thrifty, but you can't cut down on quality, and you definitely need to keep dietary requirements for my mother up. And thank God, she's at the age where prescriptions cost nothing. Mine, I use a certificate, which means I pay monthly for my prescriptions. But I have 10 different sets of tablets. Each set of tablet costs, I think, £9.40 in this country. So you can imagine if I was having those every month, I'd never be able to afford it. Wouldn't be able to afford it. So the certificate that's in this country, thank God for that. But we're getting to the comments. So let's get the comments. And these are in no particular order. And the top one is Rocket Bunny. And it's funny because I mentioned Rocket Bunny the other week, so I hadn't heard from him for a while. So let's see what he's put. He's put, "Hi Del, a belated many happy returns to your mum. Hope you both had a good week. I'm here at my parents' caring for my own mum today, while my dad is off enjoying a model railway exhibition. I wish, yeah, it's one of those things we've been talking to my sister in regards to, if you're on holiday, you don't really want to get up early in the mornings. You probably want to get out of the house, do some things that you don't need to do. Maybe that'll happen. I do know that my sister's got an operation that she needs to have done I think it's in April, beginning of. And so it's the same cause and reason. The onus will then become on me. The onus would be on her when I'm on holiday. So we're in discussions on that. So totally understand that. I've just pre-ordered, you say, the 4K steelbook for the Paul McGann Doctor Who TV movie, following the excellent trailer for it earlier in the week. Fans seem very positive about it. Yes, they do. And I did see that crop up in my YouTube sort of like news, you know, what I might be interested in. I was a little overly negative in a comment I left on the channel, expressing disappointment that they aren't doing a 16:9 version, considering they are remastering from the original 35mm film. Sure, it would mean a lot of cropping for shots, but would really look great on modern TVs in 4K. You could keep the 4:3 version, of course, for purists. that want to keep faithful to the original. Have you ordered it yet, or do you plan to do so? Question mark. I'm interested in your thoughts around the trailer and the release itself. Well, it was very interesting. It wasn't out of the blue. I was talking to Ian Hill, the Ramblings, talking about the next collection, which is in March, believe it or not, and finishes off the Peter Davison collection era. And, you know, there's lots of other collections that still need to be done, especially around the William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton eras. But there's still the others, Tom Baker, etc. And what you have to understand is that this movie came out after the cancellation. Well, this is a long story, but there was never really a cancellation. It was sort of like stopped. And it was a good 8 years. I think it was 8 years before it was resurrected, and it came as a one-off that was supposed to bleed into another series, but it never did. It was then magically brought back to life in 2005, so another good 8 years after that. Doctor Who never died. It went off into radio. It went off into audio plays from a company called Big Finish. It continued in written format, books, novels, magazines, comics. So it never really died. It just sort of went on what they call hiatus. And when the movie came out, it was around about a sadness, really, because just before its broadcast in this country, John Pertwee died. So there wasn't a memorandum for it. And it came out on a bank holiday. I remember it. And people were gobsmacked a little bit. They were very happy, I think, with the special effects, the music. The story was all over the shop. But there were bits in it that people didn't like because it went against the grain in regards to classic Doctor Who, like the Doctor kissing his recently found, possibly new companion in that show. And, you know, along with the story, which was very muddled, it was well received and not well received, depending on which side you sit upon. I looked at it as a hybrid. It was a bridge, and it's one that throw everything at it, see what works, see what the reaction is. But that's neither here nor there. It went away and came back in 2005 in the form that we know in the modern audience, which, again, causes great debate amongst people. Now, I was one of those ones that was just happy to see it. And it even incorporated a regeneration. We saw a new Doctor. We saw all the tropes of a new Doctor, a bit scatty at first, in peril, saving the day, all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, I looked at it as, you know, one of those things and went, well, maybe the series will look good. It never happened. When it comes to, well, how are you going to do a collection then? Because does it fit in the classical era or does it fit in the bridge to the new eras? Now, the new eras have got these steelbooks and, you know, complete series in Blu-ray format, some in 4K, especially the ones that were done on film. Now, from that point of view, this has got film stock. But, and this is the big but from my perspective on it, when Star Trek, the motion picture, was redone, you know, when they remastered it to a higher definition, they redid the special effects and they did them in low res because it was supposed to be on DVD or it was going to be broadcast. This same situation, it was done in the 90s and it was made specifically for TV, which is why Rocket Bunny has perfectly stated 4:3 ratio, which is TV ratio. But it was done on film. The film means that you can redo the scan and make it 4K. Hooray! Marvelous. Special effects. Are they being redone? Or have they been upgraded? You know, they've been sort of like, you know, like you do with a DVD player that you want to upscale, is the word, to Blu-ray standards, you know, 1920 1080p. So it doesn't, I think, really make it clear whether they've done that, and so therefore it sounds very much like they've upscaled. And if that's true, it might be a bit, well, might be a bit jarring. But it could also be absolutely fantastic. They might have redone those. They do say that they found all the tins for the transfer, and they've all been rescanned and remastered. Total in agreement with Rocket Bunny that you could do a 16:9 and a 4:3 version. That would cost a lot more money. They done this with the Sweeney. They came out with two versions. You can buy the 4:3 one or the 16:9. But we're talking about one movie. You would think, yeah, you'd have the money for that. The Sweeney is like 20 odd shows. But you have a choice. You can buy a 16:9 or you can buy a 4:3, and it does require cropping. You expand out the image. You have to crop the top. So you lose a bit from the top and the bottom. You could do some pan and scanning a little bit on that, but yeah, you'd have to remaster it in that ratio. What did I think of the trailer? Thought it was great. Sylvester McCoy talked all the way sort of like through it. Showed off just how different and clear it looks, how they fixed some of the problems. There are two versions, an American and a British version. British version is cut. There was a crime that went on about a month before in Britain that meant that when the gang war shooting of the doctor at the time, Sylvester McCoy, happened, the BBC were nervous about that, the shooting of the doctor, and so they cut bits of it out. It's not that jarring, but it is jarring when you look at it from the American perspective. So they've put all that back in. Absolutely marvelous. At the time, transfers would also be that old adage of sped up. NTSC is different to Powel. We had a much more higher lineage to our TV screen, and when you tried to encode that, the audio sped up, so people's voices became higher pitched. It happens a lot in Star Trek The Next Generation and anything that was coming over at the time. So it will now be eliminated. So it'll be at the right tone. So a lot of fixes, a lot of new features, and a remaster. Brilliant. What can I say about it? I'm hooked. I'm on it. I bought it as a pre-order. It was out lunchtime Friday. And across the board, it's become the biggest pre-order of the week at Amazon, HMV, Zavvi, and sold out on some of those platforms. You cannot now pre-order it. I think you can still get it on Amazon and HMV. Not so sure about Zavvi. I use them less and less now. That's because I don't agree with their red carpet philosophy on things, where you pay a yearly subscription and you can therefore have discounts and stuff sent earlier. It may be a small amount of money, but I can get the same thing from HMV and Amazon without paying that. So, yeah, that's another story. Xavi are still great, and I still use them. I just use them less. But going back to this, it's not going to be for everybody. Ian Hill, The Ramblings, I should think he'd be one of them that would not buy this. He is classic. Although I mentioned that this is a bridge, he recognises that, but it's not classic Who to him. So I get it. It's quite expensive as well. It's coming out on 4K and it's a steelbook. You can imagine, therefore, you're looking at the 35, 40 quid range. So, yeah. Got to look at all of these things, your purse strings and all of that sort of stuff. So my opinion is it's physical media. It's Doctor Who. It can only boost physical media's footprint at the moment. So brilliant. Happy for it. Marvellous. Can't say any more than that. You then end with cheers and all the best to you and your mum. Thank you so much. And just to end on that, Doctor Who, if you haven't guessed already, I'm all for it. And the artwork looks gorgeous. So I'm quite excited, really. Looking forward to it. Salute, my friend. Moving on. Ian Hill, The Ramblings is next. Like I say, in no particular order. Let's see what Ian says. And you remember, he's got his own channel. Please have a think about subscribing. Be absolutely marvellous if you can. And he's put, "Hi, Del Boy. I hope you and your mum are okay. It was good that you celebrated your mum's birthday. I think you did your best for her. The meal was a good idea. I'm sure in the past she would have appreciated it, but with her illness, it can be expected. I know you both have a mother and son love for each other. Always remember that. There's nothing you can do to stop this cruel illness. That is sad. So don't feel bad about that. You are doing the right thing and making the care of your mum the number one priority." Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're quite right. Things are okay with my sister. There is still that little angel and devil on your shoulder that goes, remember what she said, that everything is a lie, that she doesn't have any love for you and all of this sort of stuff. But things are said in the heat of the moment. We will see. But at the moment, it's number one priority. Love my sister. I've always told her that. She says that less. I think she's the type of person that does it by, I show you, rather than retract what's been said. And God bless her for that. Love my sister. She's not very well at the moment. And every day I say, how are you? Are you okay? And that's before we even get to talking about what happened to my mum in the night and everything else. It's me. That's how I am. And that's not to say that my sister doesn't retort that on occasions, because she does. I say this every week, you continue, but the Wednesday live stream was great. It was very enjoyable, and we have such great contributors from our followers who are great friends. We had a lot of fun and laughs too. You can't buy that. Absolutely. I don't know where I'd be without Wednesdays. I keep telling that. We don't need to establish a foothold. We're at episode 95. That's 95 Wednesdays. So if you can, come along on a Wednesday, please do. We have a great time. And it does say at the bottom, ask us anything. And, you know, we have a great time, and we have so many people that come in and they ask us questions and they have their own conversations, and you learn a lot. So it's absolutely brilliant. We find it funny. We have a laugh and a joke. I put on a bit of a persona. I'm the crotchety one. I'm the one with a little bit of knowledge on certain subjects that get mentioned on occasion. And they've got greater knowledge on foreign films and horrors and all of that sort of stuff, which means it's very balanced, from my opinion. So that's great. You continue, my week, well, it's just been the same. Feeling cold a lot, and when the heating is on, worrying about how much it will cost. My leg and foot sometimes gives me the usual pain. I was just beginning to worry about how low my medication was. I put in a request just over a week ago, and it was delivered this morning. Yeah, you know, I've talked about prescriptions on here myself. I believe there is an ITV program where they're talking about the fuel capping. And I believe there's going to be a big drop. That's what I've heard, which means it might be good news. Funny how we're entering into the summer and spring where the heating will be lowered again and they're reducing the cost of fuel. Amazing. Stick it back up when we need it, lower it when we don't need it so much. I value it. We need to keep my mum warm. So, yeah, brilliant. I'll be looking into that. Martin Lewis, I think his name is. It's on a Tuesday, if I remember rightly. You continue as usual. I've been watching quite a bit. I finished watching Lord of the Flies, the 2026 BBC One programme, episode 3 and 4. It was an excellent BBC co-production, which looked great. The acting was great. The lad who played Piggy was outstanding. A very convincing performance. Yeah, we had a little chat about that on Wednesday. And I happened to mention, I said it's a co-production by 5 independent countries and broadcasters. And it was done with such high production values and a classic book. And they didn't go beyond too much modernisation. It is about landing on an island as adolescents, trying to get on, trying to join together to survive. And how sometimes there will be people that will capitalise and try and be the rulers of the roost, and there will be others that will just follow, and then there are people that will just want to work together to survive. It's a very important book, one that I watched the original sort of like film production while we were reading the book at school, and they wheeled out the video recorder and the telly for us to watch it. So we got an understanding of the book's key points, you know, tone of the film. So it was great to see that it was not too far from that. I still think it's worth watching, even if you remember it or watched it just recently and it was the older production. Definitely. You continue. A film I enjoyed was Absolution, 1978, starring Richard Burton, teaching at a boarding school. Also, Billy Connolly was in it too. The interesting question is raised was, should the confidentiality of a confession should ever be broken? This was a dilemma the film explored. Richard Burton was perfect in this role. The ending was very powerful. I always get a certain comfort watching Hammer Gothic films, so I watched The Curse of Frankenstein 1957. So I'm just going to go back a moment here to the Richard Burton film. I think I've seen this on Sky, you know, or one of those rewinds. It's where he's a teacher or a psychologist and there's a child that likes horses. Am I right in this? And he confesses to something, and that's what starts the whole thing off. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, you know. And if it is that one, I really enjoyed it as well. I'll have a word with Ian about that because it's just dropped on me what it is. So I watched Curse of Frankenstein 1957, he states, starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee as the monster. This is an important film. It's where these series of Gothic horrors began, and they were in colour. I think they are my favourite series of films, better than the Universal in quality and quantity. Definitely quantity. Quality, obviously, because you move on 20 or so years. I still say that certain horrors work better in black and white. I won't diss the Universals, and I know Ian is not either. But what he's saying here is that Hammer was an important part to the UK film industry and in the horror genre. So, and I totally have that. I'm a big Hammer horror fan. So, you know, in my head now, I've got the Kate Bush song going in my head, Hammer Horror, Hammer Horror. And that black dress she wore, she nearly popped out of, I swear. Go and watch the video of it. But it's an interesting song. Kate Bush always was interesting, though, wasn't she? But Curse of Frankenstein, I bought the Big Hammer remaster this year, and I showed that off several months back. And it's probably the gem, the queen of the set that I've bought in that Hammer Horror line. But we haven't reached the end of it yet. Captain Kronos was, Quatermass was second. Now it's the Curse of Frankenstein is now number one in that collection for me. Another enjoyable film was The Manchurian Candidate, 1962, with a great cast of Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, Angela Lansbury, and Janet Leigh. This was a great conspiracy thriller that involved prisoners of war in Korea being brainwashed by the Chinese and being used when triggered to do assassinations. That rings like the Hobbit, that parody that was done in The Naked Gun about brainwashing to assassinate people. But The Manchurian Candidate, I'm sure, did a remaster, sort of like a newer version in the 2000s, and I enjoyed that as well. You continue, this was an excellent thriller that kept you on the edge of your seat. So you get to the question this week is, do you think we all... do you think we can all be, even in subtle ways, be made to believe in things or be persuaded by adverts to buy products? Oh my God. The easiest answer, absolutely yes, and it goes on all the time. Some examples. Well, when you're advertising online, it's scarcity. There's that fear of missing out, the numbered edition. Oh, we're only doing 2,000 and that's the end of it. And that's a worldwide figure. So go out and buy it. Bollocks. They go and add more. All of this sort of stuff goes on. Terrible. Stats. Always stats are in the printed form. I mentioned to you in a previous blog that I went on a data masterclass at work, and it was talking about it's how you market figures. And the perfect example I gave, and I'll repeat it again, you could see a poster that says high crime in London is down to 1%. 1% sounds incredibly small, but when you consider how many people live in London, like 8-9 million people, and you've got 1% of high crime, you're never going to put up a poster that says crime in London is at 190,000 crimes per month, say. 1% sounds so much better, doesn't it, than 190,000, say. So, you know what I mean. Now, I wasn't trying to do the maths and work it out that 1% of 9 million, all that. It's you get the idea. It's a huge figure, but it looks incredibly small when you put it in percentage terms. So they do that all the time in advertisement. All the time. Terrible. Authority. That's another one. Yeah. What do I mean by authority? You know, when you see those conservatives and they say, oh, and we give you a 25-year warranty, or you buy the mattress and it says it will last you 15 years and you have a 15-year warranty. Not worth the piece of paper it's written on. When we had our felt roof, Tarmac's roof, done on the garage again, I have to say that it's the third time since it was built, they give us a 10-year warranty on it. 10 years, right? And you have to look at it and you have to go, what if that company goes bust? Who's going to cover the warranty then? Then you have to go to them and you find out this insurance broker took over the warranties and all of this sort of stuff. Not worth the paper it's written on. Not worth the paper it's written on. Price anchoring. Yeah. Recommended retail price, £229. But if you buy it before Monday, you can have it for 199 quid. But hurry up because it ends Monday. You ever seen the Dream adverts? The Dream bedding? I swear there's only 3 days in the whole of the year that they haven't got a sale on. 3 days. And that'll be Christmas, Boxing Day, New Year's Day. Other than that, as soon as one sale ends, another one starts. Simple as that. Price anchoring. Hate it. And I'm starting to look at loyalty cards. I mentioned it last week that the government started to look into it. The Nectar points, the Tesco club card points, all of that sort of stuff. And they never do it on the household. They rarely do it on the household items. They never do it across the board. Certain stuff, it's always to push the stuff that they can't sell or they've got huge amounts of it. And it encourages you to get their card and then every 100 points you get a penny or something, right? And if you do the maths, you'd have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands to get 100 quid by the end of the year. But they look at it as, well, if you're buying from us, you're getting something free. Credit cards do it much better, to be quite honest. They give you 1% on every purchase or something like that. It's to encourage spending. That's what loyalty cards do. So all of these things, they're subtle things that manipulate you into buying. And what about those bought reviews? That's the word I was looking for. Bought reviews. The ones where they say, I bought this and it was absolutely fantastic. Best thing I ever bought. The quality is incredible. Oh my God. No. Absolutely terrible. 5-star of Trust Guard ratings. All bought. We're number one in the insurance game. This is, number one car of the year in Witch's Guide and all of that sort of stuff. I look at those things and just go, false, false, false. Don't agree with them. So that answers that, Ian. And as I said, he's got a great channel. I love my Wednesdays. Couldn't live without them. Go and have a little look. Definitely worth your while. Moving on. Salute, my friend. And we get to another great friend of mine, Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder, who's got his own channel. He has his 100th blog either tomorrow or next Monday. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. Look out for that. And what he doesn't know on technology isn't worth knowing. I used to think I knew an awful lot. I'm in a very close circle. You meet someone like Colin and you go, wow, you're embracing it like I am. And then you realize you don't know as much as you think you know. Okay. There's certain areas I think I'd be good at in a debate, but yeah, just to say he's knowledgeable and the type of person that would want to help you. And that's the two key things. Just like me, I love to partake my knowledge. I love to help people. And I'm quite knowledgeable in technology. You know, it's been around me. It became my career. So, yeah. So what's he put today? He's put, got to show a front, I suppose. When you look at it, Russia is having enough trouble trying to take Ukraine without expanding into other territories. I could well be wrong, but I think it's all just theatre. That's probably something from last week, but I can't remember because I don't do the war too much. But go and have a look. Belated happy birthday to your mum. Thank you so much. Very, very happy. And I'll pass that on. Got to keep up with her physical health. Glad to hear the meal went well despite the last minute issues. See last week. Sending my regards as always. Thank you so much. Absolutely appreciated. I thought we have troubles with our pharmacy, but yours take the absolute piss, don't they just? Absolutely awful. There is no laugh at the end of another visitor in Impossible Mission, definitely. Glad you say that, because I went back and I went, nah, this guy's wrong. And I wasn't talking about the fact that there isn't a laugh, because there is. It's just, it doesn't say the line at the beginning and have a laugh directly afterwards. It does not happen in any version I've ever come across. Thanks for the confidence in my C64 knowledge. Grin. All knowledge, matey. It wasn't just C64. I know exactly, you carry on, I know exactly what you mean about replacement parts for older equipment. It's truly annoying for someone who adheres unnecessary waste. Sorry, let me get it right. Abhors, yeah. Yeah, I was talking last week about there's no point buying a speed mop because the replacements are there, but in a year's time you won't be able to get them and you have to buy a different mop. Just get the old tin and bloody woolen strands at the end and mop that way. If you know, it's ridiculous. Those aren't going to go away. You know what I mean? Paint. I know we're in this disposable thing, but even those disposable wipes have to go in a replacement bin. So many people I know flush them down the toilet, causing blockages. Stupid. They're not biodegradable like that. Some are, I suppose, but that was just a perfect example. Those air refresh things, you know, those air wicks things that you plug into the wall socket, using more power, and then you buy the refills, and you have to chuck the little empty bottles away, made out of plastic or glass. Another thing you have to recycle. Where, you know, we used to buy those gels, didn't we? That you undid the sticky, and there you are, and the gel degraded down to nothing, and you chucked it away. Or we buy the tin refreshers, which are aerosol based, all of that sort of stuff. Annoying. You continue. Galaxy Quest is now free to watch on YouTube. Link posted in your Discord. Thank you very much for that. I think in the context, Galaxy Quest was something I mentioned that I'd love a sequel to. It was, what would you like to see a movie have a sequel of that never got one? Galaxy Quest would be one. I've got that on Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. And I've got it in steelbook and normal packaging, and I think a deluxe packaging version that came out last year. It's just one of those films that I really, really enjoy, love. And I love having booklets that are in it and tell me these things and got new features and all of that sort of stuff. It's just one I'm happy to buy. I don't think I need to buy another version now. It's not like my obsession with Star Trek the Motion Picture or Star Trek the original series. I go over the top with that. So, yeah. It's great to know, and thank you very much for posting that in my Discord. My question you've put, talking about movies and TV series, what movies do you... Let me read this out. What movies do you were followed up with TV series but weren't? I think something might have gone wrong with AI. No, that's a joke. I know he doesn't do that. Something went wrong with correction of that line. What movies do you were followed up with TV series but weren't? I think what you mean is a film that didn't get a TV series or a TV series that didn't get a film. Don't know quite which one. We have covered it, but there are so many. So many. See, Planet of the Apes had a TV series, but it was done too early. Budgets weren't right. You could do that again now with the latest releases of Planet of the Apes. we've had TV series Star Trek that went into films. It's amazing, but in the early days, Hammer, talking about them, took a lot of British comedy and made them into films, like the buses on the buses films, Man About the House, George and Mildred, Rising Damp, Love Thy Neighbour, which is controversial, I have to say, but we don't see many now comedies turning into films. There isn't a Frasier film, there isn't a Friends film, there isn't a Big Bang Theory film. Comedy is on the diminish. I think the last time I saw a TV series turned into a film that was a comedy was probably Absolutely Fabulous. I don't watch what's that thing, Mrs. Brown's Boys, or any of that. But yeah, I think you could make a Frasier film, you could make a Cheers film, or just include the In-Betweeners worked. So I'm surprised that hasn't happened. Columbo was always a TV movie, but you could do Quincy movie. And I'm not talking about the pilot turned into a film. I'm talking about a new movie. Science fiction, you could do Fringe, the movie. Quantum Leap, the movie. That'd work. Sliders, the movie. All of that, yeah. So that's TV into film. There's probably lots of films that could turn into TV. I know they did a Back to the Future cartoon, so you can't talk about that one. But yeah, there's a lot that you could do vice versa of. And maybe it'll happen. Don't know. We're not at the end of 2026 yet, and we're not at the end of this particular decade. Who knows? Maybe by 2030 we'll have an answer to that one, Colin. And thank you very much. And if you haven't guessed, he's got his own channel. In fact, 2. And I recommend you go and look at that. And description. It's in the description. Keep saying that. Moving on, we get to Gan's Teeth. Another person who I'm very appreciative, leaves comments, watches the channel. He says, belated happy birthday to your mum. Sorry to hear the dinner wasn't quite as good as you had hoped for, but it's still great. You all managed to get out for the day anyway. Yeah, and all I was getting at really is when you hear your mum say, no, she didn't have a good time. What she meant was it was just that she was in a draft position where they could have done more. They could have helped us put her next to a radiator or closer to some heat or not in a drafty area. Just bad luck. When I booked it, there isn't a seat plan. So you're given the table that they booked you under. And it was a very busy time because it was Sunday lunch. And it looks like it's a very popular place to have your Sunday lunch. So it's just bad luck. Reference Impossible Mission. I seem to recall that the ha-ha speech plays when you run out of time and the game is over. Yeah, I was talking about, I was looking at a YouTube channel. The ha-ha that this guy was talking about was right at the end of the beginning speech. That didn't happen. He got that all wrong. Awful. And then you say, I remember that monster from Space 1999 very well, but surely the most terrifying monster of all time has to be, I've just read it, the Merker from Warriors of the Deep. Is it buggery? That's made me laugh. Oh, thanks. That's cheered me up. What a piece of polystyrene rubber mess that thing was. I've seen worse. Don't get me wrong. Polythene bags with shiny outlines and special effects that make it look like a ghost. You might as well have just put a white sheet over yourself and put holes in the eyes and said, there you are, there's Casper. Awful. But yeah, that monster's ridiculous. That's the end of your comment there, but what a great one to end on. Thank you so much. And salute, my friend. Made me laugh. The next one's from Carl Ton. Only All he's put is placeholder for next time and happy belated birthday to your mum. Happy with that line anyway, because it's a happy belated birthday to my mum. So sorry you couldn't get to write your comment. This happens. It's not a problem. We're moving on. Salute to you, sir. We move on to Martroyd. And he's put belated happy returns to your mum as well, Del. I hope you all had a really lovely time celebrating together. And we did. Thank you so much. And thank you. That's all you need, really. It's just like one line sometimes. Absolutely marvellous. We move on now to another person who's a supporter of me and has his own channel, and that's Wee Bob Art. I mentioned last week he's got a community question, and I hope you've answered. Some of you have gone to do it and answered it. Like I say, he's got two channels. Look for Wee Bob and Wee Bob Art, two separate channels. Fantastic job he does at digital artwork, but he's also does TV and movies and general discussion, so it's great. He put, watched all the way through, glad the meal out went relatively okay, and all the best wishes to you and your mum. Thanks for mentioning the community question, and I hope a few people get involved, but I enjoy doing the video anyway. Yeah, that's why we do it, don't we? You did give away some of the bridge scenes that I had in my head. So sorry about that. Anyway, I might be quiet over the next week due to working overtime next weekend. It is bedtime for me now. Work tomorrow. So we'll get my question out now. Spy Kids the movie has a scratch and sniff card that went with the DVD. Do you know of any other movies that tried to give you the 4D experience? If that is what it is called. 4DX, 4D experience. Yes, you're right. All the best and salute. Back to you. Yeah, that's my salute at the end. I've got one DVD that's got scratch and sniff because I haven't got Spy Kids, and that's Bottom Live. And I should think the scratch and sniff wouldn't even work anymore. I mentioned it, that it was a gimmick that used to be in games. There was a scratch and sniff card in Infocom's adventure Leather Goddesses of Phobos, which I still have in a big box. And that scratch and sniff card, that'll be dead. It has fart smells on it and all sorts of stuff, which Bottom will have exactly the same. But are there other films and stuff? There probably is. It's all based on technology, though. The 4D experience in cinema is basically motorized chairs with haptic feedback and jets that have got water in, and air compression canisters that spray air in your face, that while you're watching a film at key moments, these things interact with you. Doing that at home is much more difficult. It can be done. The cheapest way, and I don't think it works very well, and I thought it was a gimmick, was Philips brought out something called Hue Sync. So if the colours in the background were big explosions, you got yellow and red hues lit against your back wall that turned the back wall into a wall of colour based on what you saw. And depending on whether you were in the dark and all this sort of stuff, light would bleed onto the walls to show like torchlight and stuff. It was probably the cheapest free 4D experience you could get. But I do know there are companies out there. I think there's one called Butt Kicker. And you can put sensors underneath your chairs and it gives you a rumble feeling that syncs with the film that you're watching. It's very expensive. You could buy chairs as well that do this. But Butt Kicker, I think, is the cheapest alternative. But when it comes to what films incorporate that, I probably got a lot of them. I know that films like Top Gun Maverick had 4D experiences, and did Spider-Man No Way Home. So anything that's got a 4D experience probably does have a link somehow. But I'm not sure of the names of them, matey, because everything these days like that is probably 3D. I've still got a 3D TV. I've still got active glasses. I can still watch stuff under VR. So 3D is probably the only thing that gives you the 4D experience. So there we go with that. Moving on. And salute, my friend, and thank you so much. We get to Floyd1611, one of the new people I said I haven't heard from. He's put birthday greetings to your mum for yesterday with a little meme type icon for a bunch of flowers. Thank you so much, and I'll pass that on. That's really nice of you, and it's nice that you commented. Thank you so much. And the last one to comment, and salute to you, by the way, as well. Thank you. Is Robert's Retro Gaming. And he's put, happy birthday, Del, mum. Del, of course, I did not mean that I had not made time for your channel specifically, and now I wish I had not said that. I left a little message for him saying, no, I didn't take it that way. Sometimes you have to read out something and then you have to explain, I'm pretty sure he didn't mean this, so that people don't reflect badly on you. And that's what I tried to do. You continue, as luxury items go, a curved ultra-wide monitor is quite nice. Who knows, the curve might be such that it would be it might fit nicely into your existing corner. The one I wanted doesn't. I measured it, and I have to have it diagonally against this wall, and to the left and to the right are curtains that you need to draw on, and to the left bolted on products like my capture card on the wall, because I've run out of desk space. So they're sort of like velcroed onto the wall. They would be covered by the TV and it'd be hard to get the cables out, all of that sort of stuff. But anyway, the one I wanted was well beyond the dimensions. So I'm quite happy with what I've got. It's just, I will look into it again when it's time for this monitor to be replaced. You continue, your thoughts on movies and TV and the channels that review them are interesting as always. Thank you. Yeah, I try to make them as best as I can. All the best to you and your mum, and all the best to you, my friend. Must be cold in Canada. I hope everything's okay with you. I know that you're a big family man. Hope you're okay with that. Keep up your YouTube work. My God, I don't know what my days would be like. Every day you bring out something. And you know, you're as far as I'm concerned, royalty. And that's the end of the comments. So we're going to get to what I've watched, and we're going really, really well at the moment when it comes to timing. So I'm just going to take a little break, and I'll be back in a moment. And sorry for the small amount of stutters that are going on with the camera. I'll look into that. I'm logged in as administrator on OBS, and I've got the priority for the camera as being above normal. And I've turned focusing and auto exposure off. So I'm not quite sure what's causing the lag. I'll have a look at that. But it'll be after this blog. Back in a moment, though. Thanks very much. See you in a moment. And I'm back. And like I said, I've just got through the comments, and I've said salute to everybody, I hope. And a big thank you to all of those people that commented. And yeah, I just had a quick break. I have to say I'm on new tablets. I mentioned it last week. Makes me go to the toilet a little bit more often. What's it called? Dapaquilivazin. Yeah, big long word. And the side effects is going to the toilet a lot, and of course I drink an awful lot of water, so it's a no-brainer that would happen. So thank God for pause. But it's nice that I got the comments that I had, especially from my mother. And like I say, it's a brand new year. Maybe it's best that the blogs get a little bit shorter. I don't know. But we get to now the watched on YouTube. And I love talking about these because you get to know what I sort of like watched. And it also helps with my friends that I mention their channels as well, especially if they're friends of mine. So watched on YouTube is the general one. And there are 4 sort of like individual channels in here that I watch religiously every week. I look out for it. I'm a subscriber, that I'm alerted to them. And those are This Week in Retro, Tech Moan, Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming. And This Week in Retro didn't disappoint. There was Shoot 'em Ups Away. 1996 really was a big deal. And Doom Scrolling Defeated. Some of these I had to look up. I didn't know quite what doom scrolling was. It's that thing that you do on your phone, as a perfect example of all that stuff that you just scroll past or you click on accidentally, and then you have to sort of like delete your digital footprint to them, because then you're alerted to them all the time. It happens in YouTube all the time. So that was an interesting subject. Techmoan will be good for one of the people that I talked about last week, because he went back to lava lamps. He bought a couple more. He bought a giant one, a mini one, and a Neo one. And he wanted to explain what the differences are between these. And my God, I couldn't believe one of the ones he bought was £315, and that wasn't the most expensive. They make them bespoke these days. And there was one that he listed up that was nearly £1,000. My God, they must be for hotels, like he said. But that was an interesting watch. Gadget Show didn't do anything this week, but then again, they're a high production company, so sometimes it's best that they have a week off, make a bumper show the following week. So that doesn't surprise me. And Chronologically Gaming, which I always love, he's doing a great big spreadsheet, and I look at this spreadsheet all the time. He's still in December 1982. So it's going to be a while before we get to 1983. But when we do get to 1983, my God, it exploded, especially in the UK. So if he's covering every grain chronologically, regardless of country, his channel's going to be going until I probably die, I should think. It's quite an awful lot of that. So beyond those four, and I do recommend that you watch those four as well if you're ever into that sort of stuff. The next one is Pocket Full of Comics. Comics has a theme this week because there's been a lot coming up in my alerts. And it must have been something I clicked on, like it said in that doom scrolling. But this one was called Comic Collection Found and Bought. Look what I found. Look what I found. And there's plenty of these channels, people that go around car boot sales, all of that sort of stuff. But Pocket Full of Comics was quite an interesting one because he's also an independent grader. You know, he grades his own comics. He's got the full list of what you need to look out for, and he's buying stuff and helping people that go out there and tell people that know nothing about comics what they're worth. Now, you can exploit that if you know something, but this guy seems to be quite genuine. He's in America, and you know, he actually bought the collection from them, and although he didn't buy the whole lot, he bought a lot of the stuff that would be considered junk, 25 cents, because he wanted to show that what he was buying as the keys, that the people knew that they were keys, and knew that also that he was buying them as a job lot. That's the way you do it. You can go on eBay and sell them independently, or you can buy them as job lots. So you can pick up some absolute bargains. Now, one of the ones I watched an awful lot of, because I've got at least 3 episodes I watched this week, and that was a channel called Still Only 35 Cents. They did an episode called Doom Lord, the strip that gave kids nightmares, and didn't it? My God, I remember Doom Lord. It was one of the first weekly comics that I bought that did a photo story. What do I mean by a photo story? This is an actor that puts on a mask and becomes the character, and it's done like those love stories that your sister used to buy in magazines like Bunty and Jackie and all of those. I never saw it before in a boys magazine, but Doom Lord, yeah, that was scary. So if somebody dies, you see him grabbing hold of them and killing them with his aura or whatever it is. Quite menacing, really. Then he looked at Marvel UK. The art director spills the beans. So he did an interview with the art director of Marvel UK. And of course, Marvel UK was a big one for me because that's where my comics sort of like started, with my dad buying me Spider-Man Comic UK. Spider-Man Comic Weekly it was. And later on I bought things like Powel and Terrific and so forth, which are much younger than Marvel UK. But that was great to reminisce and go back and to hear his perspective on how the comic was made and how he joined the Merry Marvel bullpen. So that was good. And then they did an episode that I sent to my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings. It was free gifts in comics that are impossible to find. Yes, because most of our weekly comics here in Britain came with the first 3 or 5 issues came with a free gift, an incentive to buying the comic, that by the time you get to the 5th issue, you probably were going to be buying it on a weekly basis. Yes, a marketing gimmick, but we as kids loved it. We had plastic frisbees, we had planes that you assembled, you had posters, all sorts of stuff. Crap now, you know, I mean, it's throwaway stuff. But it's interesting how it was assembled, where they bought it from, and how much worth it was to the selling of the comic. So that was good. Another one I watched was something called Vintage Vault. Vintage Vault, the episode was called The 4-Hour Dune That David Lynch Disowned and the Studio Buried. If you don't know the history of Dune in the 80s, you'll know that it was a big film. It was going to be a genre rewriting film. And Frank Herbert's Dune is a huge book, huge series of books. But to do that film in a short period of time just can't be done. And David Lynch's film was 4 hours long, but the studios interjected and they cut it down to just over 2 hours. I think it's 2 hours, 15 minutes. So there's all this other stuff junked on the floor. It has been recut and put together, but David Lynch disowned it, said, I don't want to put my name against this. It's not what I chose, not the film that I directed. Good for him. But it's a very interesting story, one that's well documented and all over YouTube. Go and have a look. After that, I watched United Story of Analog. Yeah, now I listened to this because it's about the format called SACD. It's a super audio format, super audio CD, and it had specific hardware you needed to play it. And it was a high digital format CD. And apparently we've all been setting it up to our amps wrong or incorrectly. I've got a SACD player down there, and I've got some SACDs, CDs still. And I said that correctly, I think. So, yeah, SACD, a format that is now supposed to be dead, but still going. So that's good. And I will look into that judder, by the way, that frame stopping. That's what I'll have a look at the error log and see what's causing that. Might be just something like I need to reboot my PC or something's running in the background. But anyway, I hope it's not causing you too much distress for this video. So United Story of Analog, the channel was the episode was called if you can't hear SACD, watch this shocking video reveal. And he explains how you're supposed to set up your hardware to listen to SACD. So it was very interesting for me. And then there was a channel that was very sad. And the channel is called The Life and Sad Ending of. That's what it's called. And this one was about the story of Lou Costello. Lou Costello from Abbott and Costello. What a gorgeous and funny set of people they were. Didn't get on with each other towards the end. But the way that Lou Costello died is very sad. But it's funny how his wife died 9 months later, and just before his death, his son died by drowning in their pool. He got out of his crib and waded into the water and drowned. Horrible to hear these stories, but these are stories that go back into the late 40s, early 50s. So, you know, I mean, health and safety and all of that. You know, it's just sad, but it's a point of history, and I read up about it because they were important to me, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. Let's move on to film, TV, soundtrack, YouTube. And this is where we get to some friends that have got channels. Ian Hill, The Ramblings, is one that I've mentioned before. I don't know where I'd be without his Wednesdays. He does such a massive amount, though. I mean, this is just some of the stuff that I've got to read out here. It's top 5 historical films, 2024 to 2025. Top 5 westerns, 1933 to 1935. Doctor Who review of The Chase, still in the William Hartnell era. X-Files review, series 5, season 5, episodes 19. What I Have Watched, episode 6, that's all the movies he'd watched that week. And Live With Me, episode 95 on Wednesday. My God, that's something every day. And that's, when you find a channel that does that, and it's about stuff that's your pride and joy, yourself, it's a godsend. I listen to that while I'm doing spreadsheet work. You know, it does my head in at work. So fantastic. And, you know, I like every single one of his videos. I hit the like button. It's just great, the stuff that he brings out. Moving on. Salute, my friend. And by the way, please do subscribe to him. The next one is Mondo Chelovic Movies. But unfortunately, like the last 4 weeks, we've seen nothing from him. It's been members only. But he has changed jobs. So I'm just waiting for that to change. Sure, it won't be long before we're back with him. Then you got Just Joshings, which used to be called Through the Lens. He did a couple of reviews. He did some shorts. He did a short review of Wuthering Heights and a short review of Moonlight. 2 films that I haven't seen. One I'm hoping to see for definite. Always nice to watch his shorts, because even if they are short, as in the short form that YouTube wanted to use, they're still in a very inquisitive way. Definitely a different view on things than other YouTube people that I watch. So it's definitely worth your time and effort. Then we got Movie Collector. That's the person who I told you has got a project. He used to be a projectionist, still has a projector, and he's got his home theatre at home. He was talking about One Battle After Another 4K review and Double Impact 4K review. Very interesting videos to me, but One Battle After Another is the one that I was interested in there. So that was great. Looking at another one that's film and TV and soundtrack related was Yuki Piano. Now this was done a year ago, but it's the Schindler's List theme played on the piano, and she did it on a piano that's out in the sort of like high street. This person, I think, did it in Austria, I think. But Schindler's List, what a main theme that is, and it was played beautifully on the piano by this person called Yuki. So that's one for definitely that you need to look out for. Also, there is Retro Legends Universe. They did a retrospective of Dreamcast versus PS2. Why the better console lost. I put this one in the wrong section, but it's still worth you having a look because it should have been on the other page. But it was absolutely fantastic watching and insightful, because the Dreamcast is a fave console of mine. PS2 I never had, but it's interesting to note the different philosophies of the companies that they were in. Now, this one does fit into film, TV, and soundtracks, and I had immense laughter with this one. It was from someone called Moviola12. And he did Clash of the Critics, Siskel and Egbert's Greatest Debates. Now, in America, they used to have these two prominent critics that used to do film reviews in the papers. And they were called Siskel and Egbert. Now, they used to have a TV part on the news, I believe, where they reviewed the latest films that week, just like they do on the radio, that they used to do on the radio with Commode and Simon Mayo, which, by the way, also should be in this section. But they never got on that well, but they were back and forth with this, and there was a couple of surprises. So I think it was Siskel that didn't like Back to the Future 2 or 3, and Egbert that liked both 2 and 3. Siskel's argument was Back to the Future 3 is not a Western. It pretends to be. But Egbert's retort to that is, but it's a fun film, and it is set in the Wild West, so it's a Western. And I have to agree, and it goes on and on into the Indiana Jones and Carlito Way and a load of others. So that was interesting. Loved that. And then we get to Game and Tech YouTube. And this is definitely my friends that have got their own channel, mostly, and a part of my Discord or part of Mainmeister's Discord. And you can have a chat with them. It's brilliant. So Down the Rabbit Hole's the first one. He went to a Vancouver fan expo this week. I think it was Monday and Tuesday he went. And he also met, for the second video he did, Kristen, I think it's Kristen Hugh. Can't pronounce the name. He pronounced it so much better. It's called, that episode was called Fan Legend of Chun-Li. Film Legend of Chun-Li is bad, but Kristen Hayek was awesome. And that's because he interviewed her and took some poses with some film, and great. He had a great time. Absolutely fantastic. Definitely worth a watch this week. Then you got Robert's Retro Gaming, who I've talked about earlier, and he did a comment earlier on, and does some such fantastic stuff. Just look at the content here. You've got Dwarf Fortress Classic episode 26, Minecraft Play episode 181, Steam gameplay of a game called Shapes, which Steve's Gaming has done as well, C64 gameplay of Mr. Do, which he got some enjoyment out of. I think he understood the year it came out, so that's good. And then he did Atari 8-bit reviews of Bien Maja, Jesh Light, Tricky Tracks, and Jane's Program, all on the Atari 8-bit. Absolutely fantastic. Sorry I got the names wrong a little bit, but of course I'm reading my chicken scratch. It's with great sadness that Steve's Gaming Part 2 is not back up, but I will say salute, my friend, to you, as I will do the other two I've just read out, which was Robert's Retro Game and Down the Rabbit Hole. Then you've got Colin Jones, aka Ponder, and he did an Everything C64 February challenge, which is Monsters in Mayhem, one of the last C64 games out before we get into the homebrew era. So this was a production game, looks amazing. You can still buy it. Still, you can buy it on cartridge, disc, tape, all sorts. So if you want that game, just look around. Seb's Place, who I mentioned every now and again, his production values are so high that he doesn't come out with something on a regular basis. But he did a Elite Systems retrospective, which is 80s game gods or average arcade fare, ? So that was definitely worth your watch. Then you got Mainmeister doing a Friday Waffle live, which I managed to catch the back end of. Need to watch the rest of it. And then you've got 20th Century Gaming that yesterday did a roller coaster on the Spectrum, and Saturday. He did a Saturday live of C64 General Games. I think one of them was called Lai. Trying to think what the other one was. It'll come to me. But that's the end of my notes, and we moves us to the overhead cam. So let's get to that, shall we? So we need to switch to overview. There we go. Okay, so these have come this week. This one is out the blue. It's Doctor Who Season 20, which I have in a much more deluxe packaging. When I looked at the packing slip, I found out why. This is from BBC as the disc replacement program. So I get a whole box set of 9 discs where I only want 1 disc. That's very costly, I think, but appreciated. And these two I'm very excited about. There is Excalibur. Look at that. Beautiful picture. 4K HDR. Look at the extras on this. I'll put it so that you can freeze frame it. Absolutely marvelous. I can't wait to see that. And then in an equal similar vein, you've got Westworld. Same packaging, same company, Arrow. Lots of extras, as you can see on the back. I'll put that up for you. Absolutely fantastic. Really looking forward to that. And that's your lot. Let me just get back to the new camera. There we are. Mouse was moving a bit fast there. There we go, new camera. So that's the end of the blog, and I've done it in under 2 hours. Absolutely marvellous. Might be quite a good thing this year. It gives me time to do other things, get the artwork out, get this uploaded as fast as possible. So I just want to wish everybody thank you so much. We're in episode 1 of year 5. Who thought that I'd get that far? Absolutely marvellous. And with that, I'm going to say salute, be good to yourself. Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.